What happens when a widower and his grandson plant vegetables in their backyard, and a neighbor with authority decides that this is a crime? You won't believe how a simple garden became the subject of a federal investigation. Let me tell you something right now. Ain't nothing simple about trying to do good when you got folks in power who think the rules only apply when it benefits them. Especially folks like Karen. And trust me, I ain't talking about just any Karen. I'm talking about the Karen, high heels on a Monday morning, clipboard tighter than her smile, HOA president for the third year in a row, and head of the neighborhood drama committee, self-appointed. It all started with tomatoes. Yeah. Tomatoes. You see, I'm a single father. Been raising my grandson Isaiah since my daughter passed. Boy's got a good heart. Smart, curious, always asking questions. He's 10, but got the soul of a wise old man. And for the record, we mind our business. We don't throw parties. We don't blast music. I cut my grass every Sunday morning. I pay my dues. I wave at folks, even when they don't wave back. So when we decided to fix up the backyard and plant some vegetables, just tomatoes, peppers, and a little spinach, I didn't think it would cause a neighborhood civil war. But that's the thing about certain people. You start doing something wholesome, and suddenly they feel threatened like you're building a fortress. All I did was set up a small raised bed, nothing big. Bought the materials myself, used repurposed wood from an old bench, and even had Isaiah help paint the signs. Free veggies, take some, leave some. That boy smiled so wide, you'd think he just won a scholarship. And then, bam. Monday morning, I hear a knock on the door. Not a friendly knock. No, sir. This was the kind of knock that says, I brought trouble and I'm here to deliver it personally. I opened the door, and there she was, Karen, in all her HOA glory. Hair so tight it looked like it was holding back secrets. Clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, like she was ready to live stream an arrest. Mr. Palmer, she started, her voice sweet like syrup but cold as freezer burn. We've received multiple complaints about an unauthorized structure in your backyard. I blinked. Structure? She pointed past me like she was about to summon the law. That vegetable setup. It's a violation of the HOA landscaping guidelines. Section 14.7. No additional garden plots or non-decorative planting without prior board approval. Now I'd read those rules. I knew them better than she did, because I actually cared what I signed. And there was nothing in there about raised beds being illegal. But you ever tried arguing with someone who's already decided they're right? It's like trying to teach a fish how to climb a tree. I stayed calm. Told her I'd be happy to come to the next HOA meeting to discuss it. She smirked like she'd already won a prize. You'll want to remove it before then. If it's still there by Friday, I'll have to issue a formal citation and a $200 fine. Now look. I could have cussed. I could have raised my voice. But I've been black in America long enough to know, sometimes the best revenge is patience. I thanked her for her concern, and closed my door. That night, Isaiah asked if we had to take the tomatoes out. That broke me a little. 10 years old and already learning how dreams get stepped on. But we left the garden alone. Friday came. So did the fine. Envelope in my mailbox, stamped with HOA lettering like it was from the federal government. The note said I had 7 days to comply or the fines would double. Let me tell you something else. This wasn't just about tomatoes anymore. Next thing I know, HOA starts hitting me with everything. They said the paint on my shutters was faded. It wasn't. Said my trash bins were visible from the street. They weren't. Said my lawn had inconsistent grass height. And I swear I've never heard something more ridiculous in my life. By week 2, they'd slapped me with over $600 in infractions. But the wildest part? My neighbors started acting funny. Mr. Douglas, who'd borrowed my ladder last month, stopped waving. Miss Tanya from across the street whispered every time I walked by. Somebody even filed a complaint saying I'd threaten HOA staff. That one almost made me laugh. Threaten them with what? A bag of spinach? One night I came home from work, School let out late, I had to grade papers, and found a group of folks standing at the edge of my driveway, Karen front and center. She held up her phone and said, "We're conducting a property inspection." Now hold up. No knock. No notice. No invitation. Just a pack of clipboard warriors thinking they could waltz onto my land like it was the mall. I stood on that porch and gave her a stare so strong it could have cracked concrete. "You got a warrant?" I asked. She flinched. "You got a badge? A court order? A reason to be on my property at 9 p.m. on a Thursday?" Karen lowered the phone. "It's within our rights as the Homeowners Association." "Ma'am," I cut her off. "This is private property. And if you step another inch past that sidewalk, I will have to call the real authorities." They left. But the message was clear. I was being targeted. At school, things got tense. Someone emailed the principal saying I was creating an unsafe environment for students. It didn't stick, but it shook me. I'd been teaching for 27 years without a single complaint. And Isaiah, poor boy, came home crying after a classmate said his grandpa was in trouble with the neighborhood police. That night I sat on the porch and looked out at my busted garden. Someone had yanked up the spinach, left the roots hanging like a warning. I'll tell you something about being a grown man in this country. You get real tired of turning the other cheek. But you also learn how to pick your battles. And trust me, I was about to pick mine real careful. That's just the beginning. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this escalated into something no one saw coming. If you've ever been pushed to the point where you start asking yourself, "Am I crazy, or is the world just set up to mess with people like me?" then congratulations. You already know exactly where I was mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. See, after Karen tried to turn my tomato garden into a criminal offense and got the HOA breathing down my neck like I'd run off with their budget, I figured things couldn't get worse. I was wrong. Let me paint you a picture. It's Saturday morning, sun barely up. I'm sitting on the porch drinking my coffee, trying to find some peace before the day starts. I look up, and there's a neon orange sticker slapped on my front door. You know the kind, big, bold letters screaming, "Violation." At this point I had to laugh. Loud. That kind of, "if I don't laugh, I'll lose my mind" laugh. Violation for what, now? I peeled it off and read the fine print. Apparently my porch furniture did not meet HOA design standards. Sir, it was a wooden bench I built with Isaiah during lockdown. Sturdy, polished, beautiful. But according to Karen, it didn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. Let me tell you something. That bench had more soul and history than every vinyl deck on the block combined. But now, it was officially illegal. Later that same day, 2 security-looking fellas showed up in matching windbreakers with the HOA emblem. They didn't look like real cops, more like wannabe mall security with a power complex. "Mr. Palmer," the taller one said, "we're here on behalf of the HOA Compliance Patrol to verify code violations and ensure safety standards." I raised an eyebrow. "Compliance Patrol? Since when does the HOA have patrols?" He pulled out a clipboard like it was a badge. "Since the board voted on it last month." "Who was at that vote?" I asked. "Ms. Westbrook," he replied, like that name alone justified everything. So now Karen got herself a private squad? Oh, we were deep in the twilight zone now. They strutted around my property like they were auditioning for a reality show. One even had the nerve to take pictures of my mailbox. My mailbox, which I personally repainted last summer. Apparently, the color was non-standard brown. What in the tax-paying nonsense was that supposed to mean? Isaiah watched the whole thing from inside the house, his little hands pressed against the glass. I saw that look in his eyes, confusion, disappointment, a little bit of fear. I'd seen that same look in his mother's eyes years ago, when we got passed over for housing in a nicer part of town. 4. Zoning conflicts. This wasn't about tomatoes or benches or brown paint. This was about power, who had it, and who they thought didn't deserve it. After those 2 clowns left, I called the HOA office. Took me 5 tries to get someone live. I asked to see a full list of violations. I was met with hesitation, vague language, and finally this gem. Mr. Palmer, we reserve the right to cite homeowners based on evolving standards. Evolving standards? You mean Karen gets to make stuff up on Tuesdays and I have to pay for it by Friday? Nah. That's when I started documenting everything. I bought myself 2 new security cameras. Installed one at the front door, one overlooking the backyard. I printed out every letter, every fine, every complaint. I kept records of when they showed up, who was there, what they said, what they touched. If they so much as sneezed near my fence, it went in the file. And guess what? That same week, my water bill tripled. I called the city. Turns out someone had reported irregular water usage on my property. City sent a crew to inspect. Found the outdoor faucet turned on full blast in the middle of the night. Water pouring straight into the garden beds. Now I don't sleep like I used to, but I know I didn't leave that tap running. I checked the footage. And there she was. 2:43 a.m., flashlight in hand, tiptoeing like a raccoon in pearls. Karen herself. I watched her reach over the fence, twist the valve, and stroll off like she was out for a midnight walk. I downloaded the footage. Made 3 copies. One on a flash drive, one on the cloud, and one on a portable hard drive tucked in a shoebox under my bed. I wasn't about to lose evidence now. I called the HOA again. Asked to file an official grievance. You know what they told me? The HOA president cannot be investigated by the HOA board. What kind of banana republic nonsense is that? I asked who could investigate her. They hung up on me. Now I'm mad. Not the kind of mad where you yell and scream. I'm talking about that slow burn, low voice, deep breathing kind of mad. The kind where your ancestors sit up and say, "Don't let them do you like that." So I did what any seasoned man with common sense and a data trail would do. I started talking to people. See, the thing about bullies like Karen is that they don't just pick on one person. They've got a history. And history has receipts. I reached out to neighbors one by one, folks who stopped waving, folks who'd gone silent. And guess what? I wasn't the only one. Mrs. Liddell across the street got fined for unauthorized wind chimes. Mr. Ramos 2 blocks over was told his wife's wheelchair ramp violated porch standards. Even the local pastor, Reverend Green, got a citation because his welcome mat didn't meet HOA dimensions. I started compiling stories, photos, videos, copies of fines, dates, times, patterns. Every injustice had Karen's name stamped all over it like she was signing autographs. And then, this right here takes the cake. Someone left a flyer in my mailbox. Black and white printout. It read, "Stand up or stay silent. HOA abuse of power must end. Community Town Hall, Thursday night, 7 p.m., at the old rec center." No name. No logo. Just that. Someone out there was organizing. Now I don't know about you, but when the right people start whispering in the dark, it usually means the light's about to shine on somebody. And Karen? She was standing under a big OL spotlight. She just didn't know it yet. This is the climax. Everything you've waited for? It's right around the corner. Stay tuned, because what happens next? Oh, it turns the whole neighborhood upside down. You ever feel that shift in the air when something big's about to go down? Not a thunderstorm. Not an earthquake. I'm talking about something deeper. Like the ancestors leaned forward in their chairs, crossed their arms, and said, "HM. It's time." That's how Thursday night felt. The day of the town hall, I made sure Isaiah was with my sister. I ironed my shirt, shaved my beard, and packed every piece of evidence I had into a manila folder so thick it could have held a gospel choir's songbook. The old rec center hadn't seen that much foot traffic in years. But that night? Parking lot full. People standing on the sidewalk. Folding chairs packed tight. And not just the quiet, don't make waves type either. No, sir. These were folks with tired eyes and straight backs. People who'd had enough. And guess who strutted in late wearing a blazer and fake pearls like it was a beauty pageant? Yep. Karen Westbrook. She walked in like she still owned the room. Clipboard in one hand. That same smug expression like the rest of us were just taking up space. But this wasn't her room anymore. This was our room. The organizer, young man named Darnell from the other side of the neighborhood, stepped up to the front. Said loud and clear, "Tonight is about truth. About people being tired of paying to be mistreated. If you've got something to say, now's the time." And baby, the floodgates opened. Mrs. Liddell stood up first. Told everyone how she got fined $75 for putting an American flag on her balcony during Memorial Day weekend. Then Mr. Ramos spoke, voice shaking, about the time they told him to remove his wife's medical ramp or face penalties for structure alteration. And then came Reverend Green. He didn't yell. He didn't preach. He just walked up, held up his fine notice for a welcome mat, and said, "This is what control looks like when you wrap it in a policy and call it leadership." People clapped. Not polite claps, real, tired, enough is enough claps. Karen sat there stiff, lips twitching, tapping her pen like it was a weapon. Then someone called my name. I stood, folder in hand, and walked up front. I didn't speak right away. I held up a photo, my raised bed garden. Smiling Isaiah next to it. "This is what they said was illegal," I said. Then I clicked to the next photo, a screenshot of the water bill spike. Then the camera still of Karen, caught red-handed at 2:43 in the morning, turning my faucet like it was her own. Gasps. Murmurs. Somebody up front said, "Now that's just wrong." Then I spoke. And I mean spoke. I told them how I'd been followed, how my trash was inspected, how my paint got cited. I read quotes from the violation letters, showed screenshots from the HOA portal blocking me out. And I didn't raise my voice once. Because truth don't need to yell. It just needs to be heard. Karen tried to cut me off. "That footage is misleading," she said. But Darnell shut her down cold. "You'll get your turn." Karen sat back, jaw tight, like she just bit into a lemon peel. The last thing I showed was a list. 10 names of families who'd quietly sold their homes in the last 2 years. Folks who left without a fight. Turns out, 6 of them had open disputes with the HOA. I looked the room dead in the eye. You don't have to burn a house down to make someone leave. You just have to make them feel like they don't belong. Silence. Thick like molasses. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then the room erupted. Karen stood up, shouting something about defamation and slander. But it was too late. Folks had already seen her for who she was. Now here's where it gets real interesting. Next morning, I get a knock at my door. Not Karen. Not the Compliance Patrol. 2 folks in suits, badges real as daylight. "Mr. Palmer?" the taller one asked. "We're federal investigators with the Housing Integrity Task Force. We'd like to ask you some questions regarding your HOA board president." I nodded slow. "Y'all might want to come in." Turns out I wasn't the only one reporting Karen. Several complaints had gone through federal housing channels. See, HOAs don't get to run unchecked when they start messing with federal accessibility laws, misuse funds, or retaliate against homeowners. And Karen? She checked all 3 boxes. They asked for my files. I handed over everything, even that hidden backup drive I kept in the shoebox. They thanked me and promised to follow up. The next 2 weeks were like watching dominoes fall in slow motion. Karen missed one board meeting. Then another. Word spread that she was taking a break. And then? She disappeared. No warning. No goodbye speech. House went up for sale faster than a clearance TV at Black Friday. Some say she moved to Arizona. Others say she got called into a federal hearing. I don't know. I don't care. Because what mattered wasn't where she went, it's what we did. Since then, the HOA board's been replaced with folks from the actual community. Real people. Folks who knock before stepping on your lawn. Folks who ask if you're okay before they fine you for a bird bath. Isaiah? He's back out in the garden. Tomatoes looking strong. We even planted collard greens this time. And me? I sit on my porch now, coffee in hand, peace in my chest. Because for once, finally, the garden is quiet.